Hello friends, welcome to another reel from by Bharat Raghu. Today we would be looking at the views of Jawaharlal Nehru from the discovery of India and Subhash Chandra Bose, by his autobiography, The Indian Pilgrim, an Indian pilgrim, on the Mughals, on in general the Mughal Empire, and even on, because there have been a lot of recent historical movies coming, and there's of course there's a sense some of the movies are very good, and but we need to understand and analyze history in a critical sense, in a more objective sense, from especially when we're studying the medieval age, because the medieval age is all about kings and empires, and each emperor or each aspiring empire trying to protect their fiefdoms, fight for their fiefdoms. Basically, that was what the medieval empire was. So we look at some of the experts from what, say, Bose says or Nehru says, so that we get a context of what these great minds were thinking, who were the two, in my opinion, the two greatest, freedom struggle, the pioneers, the most, as in Rabindranath Tagore's, they are the most progressive of the people who were even in the Indian National Congress. So they were the two progressives, we can call them. Okay, let's just look at what Bose says. So this is his unfinished autobiography, An Indian Pilgrim, where if we go to this page number 22, so what Bose says basically, okay, so now what he's trying to explain in general is about the Hindus and the Muslims, the relations, the Muslim kings in general. So what he then says is that whether we talk of the Mughal emperors at Delhi or of the Muslim kings of Bengal, we shall find that in either case, the administration was run by Hindus and Muslims together. Many of the prominent cabinet ministers and generals being Hindus. Further, he says in page number 23, the consolidation of the Mughal Empire in India was effected with the help of Hindu commanders-in-chief. The commander-in-chief of Nawab Sirajuddaulah, whom the British fought at Plassey in 1757 and defeated, was a Hindu. And the rebellion of 1857 against the British, in which Hindus and Muslims were found side by side, was fought under the flag of a Muslim, Bahadur Shah, basically Bahadur Shah Zafar. So he's kind of referring to the kind of the Hindu-Muslim unity which existed in India, and especially coming to this kind of mood nowadays where, even the Mughal Empire is being equated to it's being talked in the same colonial ways as the British Empire. But that's not what Bose thought. That's what not the pioneers of the Indian freedom movement, so because we have to understand what was the 1857 freedom struggle. The 1857 was when the leftover chieftains, some of them were Marathas, right? Tantia Tope and Rani Lakshmi Bai, Nana Sahib. These were some of the leftover Maratha chieftains. They come together basically, and they struck alliances with other kings who and they want to declare Bahadur Shah Zafar as the emperor of India. So basically they want to revive the Mughal Empire in a way against the British, which is ironic if you think about what it's being portrayed today. So basically this is history, this is recorded history, and this is the views of Subhash Chandra Bose. So yeah, he explains a lot more, but then he goes on. The main point is the Hindu-Muslim unity, and that the Mughal Empire was being run by a lot of Hindu officials, whether in Delhi or in Bengal, is what he says. So basically, the Rajputs were very much part of the Mughal Empire. So the Mughal Empire can be also called as the Mughal-Rajput alliance. There were a lot of important Rajput chieftains in the Mughal Empire. That is, let's now look at Nehru. So Nehru, and let's look at his views especially on the controversial topic, but his views especially on Aurangzeb, what he was. So what he says is, even the chapter, this is the chapter where it says Aurangzeb puts the clock back and growth of Hindu nationalism, Shivaji. That's what he says. So basically he recognizes that Aurangzeb has put the clock back. So what? So he says that it was during this period, so this is 292 page of Discovery of India, Jawaharlal Nehru. So he says it was during this period that Aurangzeb succeeded to the throne of the Mughals after a civil war. Having imprisoned his own father, Shah Jahan, only an Akbar might have understood the situation and controlled the new forces that were rising. So he says that Aurangzeb did not have that kind of a big heart and an understanding like Akbar to see what forces were rising. So on one end, he says that the British were rising. So as we know, in Jahangir's court, Sir Thomas Roe, an ambassador of James of England, presented himself at Jahangir's court in 1615. That was when they got the permission to set up the first factories. The Surat factory was started, basically. So that's when the East India Company starts. So there is this slow but steady rising British threat, which is the East India Company threat, which is rising, especially under Aurangzeb's time. Second, so Aurangzeb, far from understanding the present, failed even to appreciate the immediate past. He was a throwback. And for all his ability and earnestness, he tried to undo what his predecessors had done. A bigot and an austere Puritan, he was no lover of art or literature. So it is Nehru. This is Nehru's words on Aurangzeb. So he was a bigot, basically. He was a very orthodox, practicing, and his views were very different from Akbar, right? He infuriated the great majority of his subjects by imposing the old hated jizya poll tax on the Hindus and destroying many of the temples. He offended the proud Rajputs who had been props and pillars of the Mughal Empire. In the north, he roused the Sikhs, who, from being a peaceful sect representing some kind of a synthesis of Hindu and Islamic ideas, were converted by repression and persecution into a military brotherhood. So this is what Nehru says about Aurangzeb's nature, very nature of having conflict with all the groups, whether it was Sikhs in the north, and of course he offended the Rajputs, and of course then comes he angered the warlike Marathas, descendants of the ancient Rashtrakutas. So just when a brilliant captain had risen among them, that was Shivaji. So basically he talks about how Aurangzeb failed to understand the fissures. So although Aurangzeb expanded the empire, the Mughal empire, it was the strongest, and militarily and you can say the territory wise, it was the vast. It had reached boundaries which Akbar had not reached, right? But there was no stability. There was wars. There were internal wars between the Mughals, between the Sikhs, between the Marathas, the rising threat of the British, whom of course Aurangzeb had defeated once. So this is what is Aurangzeb's undoing of the Mughal dynasty, right? And then at the end he says, of course, that Shivaji was the son of the resurgent Hindu nationalism, drawing inspiration from the old classics, courageous and possessing high qualities of leadership. He built up the Marathas as a strong unifying fighting force, gave them a nationalist background and made them a formidable power which broke the Mughal Empire. He died in 1680, but the Maratha power continued to grow till it dominated India. So these are some of the words. I'm not going into the entire details, but this has been recorded in history. So we know that very much unlike Akbar and his successors, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb adopted a policy of conflict with all of them. It wasn't specific to only the Marathas. It was even against Golconda, right? It was against Qutbul Mulk, the Golconda Sultanate, Bijapur. So he basically fought against everyone, and that is what we need to understand. So yeah, this is a brief about Bose and Nehru. So how the Mughal Empire was a kind of a force bringing, it was a force which brought the general, along a strong empire in India, and fought against the other, outside forces. But at the same time, with the end coming and Aurangzeb's undoing, it brought down the Mughal Empire and the rise of the Marathas. So this is has been recorded, and these are the views of Bose and Nehru. Hope you like this, and do keep watching for such interesting epilogues from history. Thanks. Bharat Prabhu signing off.